Avengers Infinity War is right around the corner, and I want to have a discussion about the future of Captain America. But in Avengers Infinity War, he's not necessarily the same Captain America that we've seen in the past in the MCU. He is now Steve Rogers, which is his real name. He's no longer going by Captain America, and the idea behind the character is that after what happened in the events of Civil War, he's pretty much become what is referred to as the Nomad. But they won't call him that in the movie, but he's still the Nomad. He's just Steve Rogers in Wakanda. And recently, Chris Evans, the actor who plays the part of Steve Rogers, of Captain America, has said that he may be leaving the MCU. Now, when I read what he said, I wasn't sure if he was trying to be cute and say, well, Captain America's leaving the MCU, but Steve Rogers will stay, or if they actually may end up having Steve Rogers get killed. So we're going to talk about the future of Captain America, and I want to just say this is not a spoiler for Infinity War. I have no idea what actually happens in this movie or if he's going to die, but we do know that he's cast in Avengers Part 4 coming out next year. So presumably if he does die, it won't be till that movie. We're going to talk about what they can do with him. So please welcome back to the channel, frequent collaborator, Mike from Laughingstock Cinema. How's it going?
Hey guys, it's Mike here from Laughingstock Media and Cinema, and I'm really interested to discuss this topic because, you know, Captain America is definitely one of my favorite Marvel heroes, and, you know, the fate of Steve Rogers seems to be really up in the air right now.
Right, it does. And the interview was... people are freaking out over it. There are people who are making videos. They're losing their minds over this, saying that, oh, they're going to kill Cap. They're going to kill Cap. They're going to kill Cap. Let's talk about that. So he's in this movie. He's the Nomad, or supposedly. Yeah. He's been around since Phase 1. And Captain America's been a really important part of the MCU because some would argue that Winter Soldier and Civil War are the two best MCU movies. And it's hard to argue against that. Civil War is my favorite MCU film, and actually Winter Soldier was my favorite before Civil War, so it really is in the top 2 or 3, and he's been so important to, you know, he's the leader of the Avengers, just very important character. In the comics, at one time, he was replaced by Bucky, and Bucky became the new Captain America. So, do you think, first of all, do you think that Captain America is going to die in Avengers 3 or Avengers 4? Is it time to kill him off? Is it time to focus on a different generation? Or is he too important to this franchise?
Well, this is kind of a yes and no in a way, but in terms of do I think he could die, the answer is yes. But in terms of if they'll keep him dead, that's another question, because when we're dealing with something like the Infinity Gauntlet and this ability to reverse time to change reality, you know, you could theoretically have a lot of these characters be killed off in this battle and, you know, in the subsequent battle in number 4, and then have, you know, them brought back with the Infinity Gauntlet, or somebody like a Celestial brings them back from the dead. So they could do that with Steve Rogers, and it could be like some big twist, but, you know, I feel like with his other statement of what he said about, you know, he wants to get off the train, or, you know, before they push him off, basically. I think he said something along those lines.
Yeah, in other words, he'd rather jump off before they write him in. In other words, he's got some good movies under his belt. Let's not ruin it with a bad one. That's the way I'm seeing that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like even if they do kill him off, like, permanently, quote-unquote, they could always still bring him back in some way. You know, it is a comic book movie, basically. So there's ways to do it. Like, they had him shot in the head, I think, in the comics in Civil War, and then he comes back to life, you know. So they can do it. It's just a matter of, is it time for him to be done? And, you know, he's had a good run, like you said, so it's very possible.
Yeah, and the thing is about that Captain America character is, you know, it is going to be hard to top on, you know, the last 2 Captain America films, but there are some more stories that can be told. Yeah. Do you think, here's the real question, do you think if they do kill him off and the new Captain America ends up being Bucky, because we know now that Bucky, in the film, we know that he, in Avengers, they have managed to take away all the Hydra programming, so he's pretty much back to being himself now. He's called the White Wolf, actually, in this film. The Wakandans call him the White Wolf because the Black Panther was taken, so he's white. So, and he's very, he's got the Captain America skills. Yeah. Do you think that a solo Captain America movie, Captain America 4 or whatever, that's tentative title, starring Sebastian Stan as Bucky the New Cap, would people go against that because of how much Chris Evans has meant to this role?
I think it really depends on how they pass the torch. Now, even in the comics and in other versions of the story, when you replace an iconic version of a character, so like Bruce Wayne or Steve Rogers with like Nightwing, like Dick Grayson becomes the new Batman or Bucky becomes the new Captain America, some people won't like that, but I feel like...
Yeah, I mean, remember when War Machine became the new Iron Man? Yeah. They've done it so many times, dude.
Yeah, so it really depends on how they execute it in the end, because, I mean, it feels like to me that's some way they could definitely go with his character, because, he was somebody who was with Steve Rogers from the very beginning, like, he's somebody who's so integrally, like, tied to his past. He's someone who has, like, had this story arc of going from being evil and being brainwashed to being his own person and fighting alongside Steve again. So I could definitely see that torch being passed, and if it's not him, it could always be the Falcon too, because I think that that's what Marvel did more recently in the comics. So I could see either of those choices being a good choice, but I feel like Bucky is the more likely option.
No, and I think if they do kill off Captain America, whether it be in Avengers 3 or 4, probably 4, I feel like, and I mean kill him off permanently, because I seem to remember Kevin Feige talking about how people who die in the film are going to be dead for good, which I don't know if I believe that, because even in the comics, when Thanos had the Infinity Gauntlet, Nebula was able to reverse the effect. Yeah. So I don't know if that's even going to happen, but I feel like if he does die, they probably will give him a heroic death. He's not just going to die like a chump. He'll probably die fighting Thanos. He'll probably die sacrificing his life for somebody else to live. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different things they can go with it. But how do you feel about this idea of them killing off sort of, not all, but some of the Phase 1 characters? Obviously, Iron Man is another one that has been discussed, which we'll probably do a separate video about that. And that's going to be a much more, I would say, important topic, only because of what Iron Man has meant to this franchise and the film industry. How do you feel about them maybe killing off a few of these characters and then focusing Phase 4, 5, and 6, or maybe just Phase 4, on the New Blood, and kind of doing more Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, not doing Thor 4, Cap 4, Iron Man 4, and just doing Guardians 3, Captain Marvel, or whatever else they have planned, the Sentry, whatever. Do you think it's time to start shifting things into a new, I guess you can say like a new generation? Is it time?
I guess it could be, because, this is going to be going up on Avengers 4. We've had all of these phases with these characters in the lead. It's been, it's going to be 10 plus years at that point. So I feel like in some ways you could say yes, but at the same time, if they're going to permanently kill off these characters, I don't really want them to kill off every single main person. I don't want Captain America and Iron Man and Thor to be killed off, because these are characters that even now I still like to read their stories in the comics. I still like to see new adaptations of their story, and I feel like with some of them as individual storylines, like the Captain America series and the Thor series, there's still some places that they can go outside of the Avengers, within the following phases. So, I could definitely see them killing off maybe Iron Man and, Captain America, or at least one or the other, but I don't know about all of them.
Yeah, I don't know about all of them either, because there's been talk about them doing a Black Widow movie, and I assume if they do a Black Widow movie, it'll be more in the same spirit of it'll be more like Winter Soldier than Doctor Strange, because she's a more grounded human character. I don't foresee the Black Widow movie having magic.
This could be controversial, but I really don't have much interest in seeing a Black Widow movie. And honestly, I feel
you don't have interest in Scarlett Johansson and spandex.
I like that part, but aside from that, I feel like her and even Hawkeye are like the weakest links of the Avengers. Like they're just like random people who are just, it's too unrealistic for me when I see them fighting like Ultron and like, you know, Thanos and all these other people. It's like, okay, I can buy Batman because, you know, he's Batman. He not only has the crazy training but all the gadgets and the, you know, the super intellect. But you know, when I see just them fighting against all these giant threats, I'm almost like, you got to kill them off, or you got to like stop having them fight certain threats because it's a little ridiculous.
And I'll be honest with you, I don't think Thanos should even die. I think and again, this is kind of a different topic, but I think having him stay alive, maybe, I don't know, arrested, or I don't know what they can do with him. Or maybe he becomes a farmer like in the comics, and then saving him for like a big, because I think the idea, in my opinion, when they do Phase 4 and 5 and they have somebody like maybe Mephisto or the Beyonder or like a new villain, Galactus even, if they get the rights to him, having Thanos come back as a baby face, but not really as a good guy, just more so like, you know, he comes back as he has to help them. He's not a good dude, but he has to save the galaxy so that he can exist.
Like a Frieza situation.
I think there's money in that. Yeah, I think there's money in that. Like, because it already happened in Infinity War. In the Infinity War, I'm sorry, the Infinity War comic storyline, not the movie. It already happened, so I think there is, you know, potential there. Let us know in the comments section down below. Do you think it's time for Captain America to die? Is it time for Bucky to take the handle, or do you think that they should just end it and not do any more solo Captain America movies? I just think it's hard to not want that, considering how well and how good they are. What do you think? Is it time though? I mean, is it time to get rid of him before they get bad? You know?
Yeah. Again, that's really difficult. But like, if they have the same people they had behind like the Russos and like the same quality writers they had behind the past two Captain Americas, I mean, how bad can they possibly get? I mean, obviously we're saying that now, but I don't know. I could definitely go for a couple more Captain America movies with Steve Rogers, but that's just me.
Right. Yep. I could too. But maybe they don't trust him. Maybe it could go bad. I mean, no director has a flawless record. So thank you. Check out Laughing Stock Cinema, and we'll talk to y'all later.